Welcome to the Wedding Planning 101, where I'm going to show you how to plan your wedding like a pro. If you just got engaged and you're thinking, okay, now what? Or if you're already knee-deep in wedding planning and feeling completely overwhelmed, this podcast is for you. If you're ready for insider tips, actionable advice, and real talk from someone who's been behind the scenes of over 500 weddings, then let's get planning. Hey there, and welcome back. We're here in episode 6 of the Wedding Planning 101 podcast. I'm Amanda Jerome, and we're about to dive into one of the most fun parts of wedding planning, developing your theme and creating your mood board. Now, if you've been on Pinterest at all since you got engaged, and let's be honest, you probably have, you've seen approximately 47,000 beautiful wedding photos. And maybe you've been pinning them frantically. Maybe you've got boards within boards, all organized by color scheme and floral arrangements and table settings. But here's the question. Do all those pretty pictures actually come together to create a cohesive vision? Or do you have a mishmash of ideas that don't really connect? And more importantly, do those Pinterest perfect weddings actually reflect who you are as a couple? Or are you just collecting other people's wedding aesthetics? Today, we're going to talk about how to move from random Pinterest inspiration to creating a cohesive vision for your wedding. One that actually reflects who you are, not just what looks pretty online. And yes, there's a workbook section for this episode, with actual Canva mood board templates you can use to craft your vision. So grab that workbook and let's plan. Let's start with Pinterest, because that's where most people begin their visual planning process. If you haven't already, it's time to create a wedding Pinterest board. Actually, create a few boards. Maybe one for overall vibe, one for the ceremony ideas, one for the reception decor, one for florals, and one for attire. Whatever organization system makes sense to your type A brain. And then start pinning. Pin everything that catches your eye. Don't filter yourself yet. Just save anything that makes you feel something. A color palette you love, a table setting that feels elegant, a ceremony backdrop that takes your breath away, a bouquet that feels romantic and organic. But here's where most couples get stuck. They end up with hundreds of pins that don't actually go together. Rustic barn vibes mixed with modern minimalist, mixed with garden party, mixed with black tie formal. And they're looking at all of it thinking, I like all of this, but how do I make it work together? The answer is you probably can't. And you probably shouldn't try to. But this is where the mood board comes in. In your workbook, I've included Canva mood board templates. What you're going to do is take some of those Pinterest images, not all of them, just the ones you're most drawn to, and start arranging them on your mood board. And here's what's going to happen. You're going to start seeing a through line, a consistency, a golden thread that connects certain images and makes them feel cohesive. Maybe it's a color palette. Lots of warm terracotta, sage green, and cream. Maybe it's a texture. Everything feels organic and natural with lots of greenery. Maybe it's a mood. Everything feels intimate with candlelight and romance. Whatever that through line is, that's your theme starting to emerge. That's your wedding's visual identity. Now, what happens when you and your partner are drawn to different styles? Maybe you love modern and they love rustic. Maybe you want lush florals and they want clean minimalism. This is where it's important to find that through line, that consistency that bridges both of your aesthetics. And that through line is also what will make your wedding uniquely yours. Because here's the question you need to ask yourselves. Do you want someone else's wedding? Or do you want it to be your wedding? If you're just copying Pinterest boards, you're planning someone else's wedding. But if you're pulling elements that resonate with both of you and finding ways to blend them that feel authentic to your relationship, then you're creating something that's actually yours. Let me give you an example. Let's say one of you loves rustic, natural elements, and the other loves clean, modern design. Your through line might be organic, modern, natural wood tables with sleek, minimalist place settings, loose, wild florals and sculptural vessels, a neutral color palette with lots of texture. You see how that works? You're not just choosing one aesthetic over the other, you're finding where they intersect and creating something new. And here's the reality check you need. Just because you find things you like on Pinterest doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be able to source them or afford them. I once had a client call me so excited about a venue they found on a blog. They sent me the link, and I had to tell them that's someone's private backyard. You can't have that venue. And they were devastated, but it taught them an important lesson. A significant amount of what's on Pinterest or online is just for inspirational purposes. It's not always realistic or accessible. So when you're building that mood board, yes, include those aspirational images that capture the feeling you want. But also, let's be realistic about what you can actually execute within your budget and with the resources available to you. So let's bring this back into the reality of Pinterest, bringing that to life. Because this is where your budget from episode 2 and your priorities from episode 1 really come into play. First question, what does your venue provide? Does it come with tables, chairs, linens, smallwares, and even centerpieces? And if so, are they your taste and style, or are they basic and maybe a little outdated? Because if your venue provides everything and it matches your vision, amazing. You just saved yourself thousands of dollars on rentals and decor. But if your venue is a blank slate, or if what they provide doesn't match your aesthetic, then it's important to figure out how you're going to fill that gap. Here's what's important to understand. What you're going to find on Pinterest is mostly high-end luxury stuff. Those tablescapes with custom linens and hand-dyed silk runners and artisan ceramics, those floral installations that cost at minimum $15,000, those are not exactly budget-friendly options. So ask yourselves, are you willing to DIY things to achieve that look? Are you willing to hire people to create these things for you? And if so, does that fit within your budget? This is where you circle back to your episode 2 budget pie. How much money do you have allocated for decor and florals? Is it enough to hire professionals to execute your Pinterest vision, or do you need to get creative? So let's chat out some practical alternatives. Facebook Marketplace is your friend. Seriously. People sell their wedding decor all the time. Vases, candle holders, table runners, signage, you name it. You can find beautiful items for a fraction of what they'd cost new. Local wedding Facebook groups are also incredible resources. People are constantly posting about items they're looking to sell or rent out. Sometimes you can even coordinate with couples getting married right before or after you and share decor items. Thrift stores and vintage shops can be gold mines for unique pieces, especially if you're going for a more eclectic or vintage-inspired look. Dollar stores actually have some surprisingly decent basics, vases, candles, frames. You'd be surprised what you can elevate with a little creativity. But all of this requires time and effort. So the decision, is DIYing your decor something you actually want to do? Or would you rather spend your energy elsewhere and hire professionals? There's no wrong answer. It's just about being honest with yourselves about your priorities, your budget, and your capacity to get this done. If you decide to go the DIY route, remember episode 5 about delegating. This is where that comes in. Will you have your wedding party help with making decor? Can you organize a crafting day where you all get together, hang out, and assemble centerpieces, make signage, or tie napkins? A lot of wedding parties are happy to help with this kind of stuff, and it can actually be very fun and a great bonding experience. But again, it's important to be clear about what you're asking for and ensure people are genuinely willing to help, not just saying yes because they feel obligated. And let's be realistic about those timelines. If you're planning to DIY like 50 centerpieces, don't wait until the week before your wedding to start. Build in time for assembly, for mistakes, and for things taking longer than you thought they would. When it comes to your vendor team, what will they be responsible for when it comes to setup and takedown? Because this is something couples often don't think about until it's too late. If you're hiring a florist, do they just drop off the arrangements or do they set them up on the tables? And if you're renting decor items, does the rental company set them up or do you need to designate someone else to do that? What about if you have a day of coordinator? Are they handling decor setup or are they just managing the timeline and vendors? You need to be crystal clear about who's doing what, because if you assume your florist is setting up the centerpieces and they assume they're just delivering them, you're going to have a problem on your wedding day. Put it in writing, include it in your vendor contracts, and if there's setup that's not covered by your vendors, let's add that to your delegation list from episode 5. Someone needs to be responsible for it. One thing that doesn't get enough attention but is actually really important is your floor plan. When you're dreaming up your Pinterest perfect reception, let's consider the physical space you're working with. How many people are you seating? What's the layout of the room? Where's the dance floor going to be? Where is the DJ or band setup? Where is the bar? All of these logistics affect your design choices. And here's what I recommend. Schedule a time to discuss your floor plan considerations with your venue. Ask them about the various table setups that are possible. For example, do you want to set up your head table in the front in a long line while everybody's looking at you eating? Or do you want to set up something a little more unique, like a royal table or like a Thanksgiving table where you're at the head and it's more intimate and everyone can see each other and interact with one another? Another question is, do you want all round tables or a mix of round and long harvest tables? What kind of tables does your venue actually include? Do you want a sweetheart table for just the two of you as your head table? Or even still, do you want to sit with your wedding party? These aren't just logistical questions, they affect the entire vibe of your reception. A bunch of long farm tables, harvest tables creates a different feeling than the formal round tables with floor-length linens. And a mix of those two has an entirely different statement. A sweetheart table creates a different dynamic than sitting with your wedding party. Let's think about that experience you want to create, not just what looks pretty in photos. All right, so you've created your mood board, you've identified your through line, you've figured out your color palette and your overall aesthetic. Now what? Now it's time to create an action plan for how you're actually going to execute this vision. Go through that mood board and break it down into categories. Florals. What flowers and greenery do you want? What's the style? Tight and structured or loose and organic? And how much are you allocating for florals in your budget? Table settings. What are your linens? What are your place settings? What are those centerpieces? What is in your budget for rentals? Ceremony decor. Have you considered a ceremony backdrop? Are you doing an arch, an arbor, a hoopah, a simple floral arrangement? What are your aisle markers? For lighting, this is huge and often overlooked. What is the lighting situation at your venue? Do you need to rent up lighting, string lights, candles? How will you create ambiance? Then we have signage and paper goods. What do you need? A welcome sign, a seating chart, menu cards, table numbers, programs? Then we have our personal touches. What elements are you including that are specific to you as a couple? Photos, family heirlooms, any other type of meaningful objects? For each category, let's decide, are we hiring someone to do this? Are we buying it? Are we DIYing it? Are we renting it? Or are we borrowing it? And then it's time to assign tasks and deadlines. Using your new delegation skills of wedding planning from episode 5, who's handling what? When does it need to be done by? This is where your type A personality gets to shine. Create that spreadsheet, make a timeline, get organized. Better yet, the Wedding Planning 101 workbooks have everything ready for you to complete. Now, before we wrap up, I want you to do one final exercise with your mood board. Look at it, really look at it, and ask yourselves, does this feel like us? If someone who knows us well saw this wedding, would they say, that is so them? Or does it feel like you're trying to create someone else's wedding because it looked pretty on Pinterest? At the end of the day, the most beautiful weddings are the ones that feel authentic. The ones where you can see the couple's personality in every detail. The ones that tell a story about who they are and what they love. Your wedding doesn't need to be the most Pinterest-worthy wedding ever photographed. It needs to be yours. So if your mood board is full of images that don't actually reflect your life or your relationship, it's time to edit. Pull out the things that feel performative and keep the things that feel genuine. Maybe you're not really a rustic barn wedding with mason jars couple. Maybe you just thought that's what weddings are supposed to look like in a barn. Maybe you're not actually into minimalist modern design. Perhaps you were just influenced by what's trendy right now. Strip away the shoulds and the trends and ask, what do we actually love? What feels like home to us? What would make us happy to be surrounded by for an entire day? That's it. That's your through line. That's your theme. That's your wedding. All right, here's your homework after this episode. First, if you haven't already, create your Pinterest boards and start collecting inspiration. Second, use that Canva mood board template in your workbook to start pulling your favorite images together. Look for that golden thread that connects them. Third, have a conversation with your partner about your respective aesthetics and find where they intersect. What's your through line? Fourth, do the budget reality check. For each element of your vision, figure out if you're hiring, buying, DIYing, or renting, and check in to see if it aligns with your budget from episode 2. And finally, schedule that floor plan meeting with your venue. Understand your space and what's possible before you commit to a design that won't work logistically. In the next episode, we're going to talk about how to make your wedding uniquely yours. The personal touches, the meaningful moments, and the way you infuse your personality and your love story into every aspect of the day. This is where it gets really special. Until then, have fun creating your visual vision. Get inspired, get creative, and stay true to who you are. I'm Amanda Jerome, and I'll see you in episode 7. Happy planning! Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Wedding Planning 101. If you're ready to take the stress out of wedding planning and get organized like a pro, head to weddingplanning101.com to get your Wedding Planning 101 workbook. Inside, you'll find everything we talked about in this episode, plus templates, checklists, budget trackers, and all the tools you need to plan your wedding day with confidence so you can actually enjoy the day when it gets here. Your dream day is waiting, and it starts with planning it like a pro.